Okay, I didn't really want to post a transmission video originally, but I think I will. Only because I really don't want you messing with the transmission. I mean, you only want to mess with it if it's truly like got issues going on. So basically, if you end up having to tear apart your transmission for whatever reason, maybe it's really clattery or really clunky and kind of rough and all that stuff. Maybe it's just kind of noisy. And you have confidence tearing into it, well, I mean, it's pretty easy to initially take apart. You just take your gear off. There's little, you know, these little type of clips here. So yeah, you're going to need a little clip tool for that. One of these little snap ring pliers here. So yeah, you can buy those pretty cheap online or whatever. But yeah, and then you just pry your gear off. And then there'll be a little clip on the side here for the forward reverse connection there, and you just pull that off. And then you take the 3 screws out, and then the transmission just pulls in half. And it's always good to hold it like this way, that direction, so that this is, the back of it's facing up. You want to try to pull it apart slowly, and hopefully the gears and stuff all stay inside there and they don't wind up on this end. It's just better if they stay down in there. And then you'll have it apart like so. And all this kind of stuff just easily pulls out. Now, a common thing with these transmissions is this clip here. This little thing here fits nice and snugly right there, and then you put this in after that. But yeah, what can happen is this can start rattling in there, and people can't figure out why they're getting a rattling kind of. It almost sounds like there's like BBs or something in your transmission, and sometimes it's this. So what helps that is you just bend these ears up just a little bit with a plier, just a tad bit, so that it's such a minute amount how much I bent that you can't even tell, but just a tiny bit so that each ear is pointing up just a tad bit, and when you put the other half on, it'll make that fit tighter, and it'll eliminate that rattle. Then of course you want to grease everything, fresh grease and everything. Put that all back in. Now these here, like this one here is fully assembled. But this one here, I took it apart, so I'll kind of show you the order it goes. So basically, this bottom bearing part, these don't really come apart. They'll stay together. I mean, you don't have to worry about them falling apart. But that, you just, put onto the bottom of this gear. You know what? Let me set the camera down. That might help. If I can get it to stand up. Come on. There we go. So yeah, it's all self-explanatory. It just snaps in there like so. But yeah, what you want to do is take some like 3-in-1 oil and just apply a couple of drops, just a little bit of oil to each one of these little holes here, like so. Just kind of let it soak in. And then you can let it sit for a little bit, maybe do that like a second time, and then take a rag and make sure there's no loose oil pooled up or anything on it. Do that a couple times, and then just dry it off, spin it around a few times, get it worked in there. That'll take care of that. Now these clutches, this is like the clutch disc essentially, and this is the clutch itself. So what you want to do is take some 120 grit sandpaper and just kind of lightly scuff these up and get that glaze. They'll be really shiny when you pull them apart, and you want to get that glaze off of there. And just kind of go around it nice and evenly, and just kind of sand it like this, like I'm doing here. Like this one, I've already sanded it, but I'm just showing you. So that'll take care of that. And then on the other side, you've got another bearing. So you'll do the same thing. Take a little bit of oil into each one of these little kind of open area little things there. Whatever you call those, little ports or whatever those are. And just kind of oil that. Again, dry it off, make sure, you know, and the key is you don't want to get any grease or oil at all on this clutch or on the disc itself. So now the disc, what you want to do, I'll show you how to do that right now. Okay, so what you do with your clutch disc, as you can see, this is a G3. Most models aren't going to have these little like hole looking whatever those are. They're just going to be totally smooth. This just happens to be a Generation 3 and that's how they are. But either way, you'll take your little clutch disc and you'll lay it on a nice flat surface on some sand, on like some 120 grit sandpaper. You want to put some good down pressure on it and just spin it like this. And I'm putting pretty good pressure on it. And as you can see, it'll start to kind of sand that disc down. See that? You're getting nice, scuff marks in there. That's what you want. Okay, there we go. See that? It's starting to look really good. So we'll do it a little bit more. Again, nice flat surface. Nice even pressure. And you want to spin it just like this back and forth. You don't want to do it any other way, because that'll give it the proper sort of hash marks on the clutch disc there. That's what you want. You know, it's similar to like what a machine shop would do on like a car flywheel or something. I mean, the goal is to have those same kind of scuff marks, machining marks, whatever. I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But there, you just want to scuff it up so it looks like that. I think I'll go a little more. And you don't have to get crazy with it, but you can see about how much I did it there. That's probably good enough, honestly. I'm just going to leave it. So yeah, that'll take care of sanding your clutch disc. But yeah, if you look close, you can see it's got those nice sort of hatch marks, kind of swirly. And that's perfect. That's what we want. That'll get rid of that glaze and stuff off there, and it'll engage the clutch a lot more smoothly now with it like that. So yeah, I'm just vacuuming the dust off there. Now you want to be careful, because down inside the clutch disc there's a washer. This washer here. It's a thin little washer. So let me clean that up and then we'll get that back in there. And we'll show you how to put the clutch back together. So yeah, you can see that. You just put your little spring down in there. Let me clean the spring off. So there's going to be a spring up next going in there. Alright, so got your washer down in there. Next you're going to put your spring. That one's a really tight fit. So let me make sure it's properly down in there. It doesn't look like it is, so there we go. Okay. I just want to make sure it's not like twist it up in there. It's nice and even, aligned with the hole and everything. And then you're going to have your shaft that runs through the center. I'll clean that up real quick. And before you put that shaft in, you want to grease it. And honestly, the grease, it really doesn't matter that much. I mean, I happen to be using this Kirby blue color grease, but that's not really a big deal. I mean, if you got red grease or something, that's going to be fine. It's going to work fine. So if you just got regular, like, old black grease or whatever, that's fine too. So as long as it's grease, that's all that matters. And then, you know, we'll run that through the spring like so, and we'll leave it sticking up above the spring there. And then next is going to be a copper washer. So, or I don't know if it's copper, maybe it's brass or something. I don't know what it is, but it's like a gold colored washer is going to be the next puzzle piece here. So yeah, put the gold colored washer on top of the spring, and then last is going to be this tiny little washer. And it's actually already sitting on top of this. I mean, it's a thin little... You can see how tiny that thing is. So yeah, that'll be the next thing that goes on. Okay, so you see that? Now I got that little washer sitting on top of the gold washer. And then we'll put a little bit more grease on the shaft here. Gonna give it a decent coat like so. Again, make sure you don't get any grease on this clutch disc. And just to be safe, I'm gonna go ahead and clean that off, just to be 100%. Yeah, it looks like I had a little something on there, so yeah, just make sure it's perfectly clean. Yeah, if you have any grease on that thing, it's gonna make the transmission act goofy. So, okay. Should add rubbing alcohol, but I'm out, so I'm not gonna stress about it. Next, we'll put the clutch disc on top of that in just a second. I'm just making sure the clutch disc is cleaned up, doesn't have any grease on it. So yeah, let's just make sure that's truly cleaned up and has no grease or anything on it. So okay, looks nice and clean. So now that's the last thing. We'll just put it on top like so. You can see how when that engages, it's going to be a nice smooth engagement. It's not going to stick or, you know, yeah, it's just going to really help it to be a lot smoother now. So anyway, and then of course again we'll put our little bearing on the bottom there. That likes to be loose and kind of fall off, so sometimes you just got to hold it there. And some of them actually kind of snap on there. You just want to make sure it's nice and fully snapped on there. So yeah, everything's looking really good here. Again, we got plenty of grease on that center shaft. We got everything reassembled in the right order. Now on a Gen 3, there's a red spring, and on this other clutch, it's going to be a green spring. Green is for the forward clutch, red is for the reverse clutch. Now, if you have any other model, the springs are probably going to be the same color. It's not going to matter. But so yeah, once you've got all these things oiled up here, these bearings, everything's greased. You got your clutches sanded down, your clutch disc sanded. You got this guy oiled up really good. Yeah, I'm going to add a little more oil to that. Just kind of spin it around. Yeah, I think it's going to be fine. Just get any excess oil off there. You know, you don't want oil splattering around inside the transmission or it'll be bad. So anyway, I think we pretty much have that now. Oh, this phone doesn't want to stay upright. Okay, so yeah, I got that clutch down in there. Again, you want to put the belt kind of down in there. Then we'll sneak this guy down in there. And again, you want to make sure your center shaft is lined up with the hole down below when it's pushed down. Now there's flat spots on that center shaft, and they got to be perfectly horizontal. I mean perfectly, or it won't go back together. So yeah, and obviously inspect all of your teeth. If you have chipped teeth, you're screwed. I mean, you can't. You're wasting your time. If it's got chipped teeth, just get a new transmission or find a used part or something. This one happens to be in good shape, luckily, so that'll take care of that. Then the last piece of the puzzle here is the gear on the bottom. So yeah, real simple. We'll just put a little grease down onto that, like so. Then we'll grease the shaft that it goes on a little bit, like so. Okay. Yeah, these aren't hard. It's like clockwork. You just got to be real cautious. Now, when you're putting this back together, I find it works if you just sort of spin it, and the belt will sort of find its way, and then it'll drop down. See, now the belt's all on there. There's flat spots on this center shaft. It's got to be facing perfectly straight up and down, and then these flats face horizontally this way. And you got to have those perfectly lined up, or it will not snap back together again. So yeah, it's tricky. I'm telling you, putting this back together is not the easiest thing. So I think I got them all pretty well lined up. I think we'll see what happens here. You can see we put a little grease on top of that too. So yeah. All right, let's see what happens here. It's always best just to drop it straight down. And you got to be, it's weird. You just got to get the feel there. That one snapped together. I got lucky on that one. So it's all together right now. You don't want to force it by putting screws in it to try to squeeze it together. You want to make sure it's all the way snapped together. As you can see, this one is. And I always put the top screw in first. Then that screw will hold it all together, and then you can put your other screws back in. Now, if you got a newer Kirby, you're going to have a safety Torx bit here, a security bit, so that you're going to need a security Torx T20 for that. If I remember right, I think it's a T20 anyway. So, and yeah, you just want to make sure your rear axle is fully together there. So anyway, yeah, and then you just, put the rest of it together, all that. And yeah, we'll test run it here when we're done and see what happens with it. Okay, so when you want to put this gear back on, there's a little washer that goes behind it right here, and it's always good to put a little grease on that washer. That'll help keep it quiet. So put a little grease on the back side of it and then push it up against the housing, and then you can put your gear on. And obviously don't forget to hook up your linkage there and your little clip there. So yeah, let's get this gear back on. Now this gear, what you're going to have to do is push it on, but if you just push it on like that, you're not going to have enough space generally to put the clip back on there. You're generally going to struggle with that. So it works good to like take a nail and put it into a piece of wood or something, and you'll hold the transmission against the back of that, and then you can you're pushing up against the shaft, and then you can push the gear on a little bit further back that way. So now the gear is really tight up against the housing, and now I've got enough room to put the clip on. But when you're done putting the clip on, we're going to have to pry that gear forward just a touch. So I'll show you that in a second. Okay, yeah, so now if you look, I got the clip on and everything, that's great, but it's stiff. That's because the gear is really tight up against the housing. So now what you can do is just, you see those little plastic things in there, you can use those to pry up against or whatever, and just kind of, all it takes is just a little twist of the screwdriver, and there we go. So that's all it takes. So you want just a little bit of in and out play. You probably can't see that, but I don't know if you can see just a little bit of in and out play of that shaft. That's what you want. It's supposed to be that way. So now we'll try to put it back together in the machine, and we'll test run it and see if this trick worked or not. Now I've got another video. Yeah, just search for the other video on YouTube, how to adjust the transmission. I don't want to show you here because this video is getting too long already. But yeah, you just want to make sure you got a nice smooth slide, all that's in good shape, and you got it properly adjusted. And again, you can look for that video on my channel and get that done before you fully assemble it. And yeah, we'll test run it here. I'll get it the rest of the way together, and we'll see how it runs. Alright, we'll test this transmission, see if it's working. See if it's working better, I should say. Wow. Yeah, that's a significant difference. I should have done a before video because it was really jittery before. I mean, just really rough. You know, forward it would kind of skip and jump and stuff, and sanding them clutches just really smooths them out like that. So again, to be clear, you're never going to get them perfect. You might hear just a little bit of like rattling inside there when it's running and stuff. I mean, they're never perfect, and they all have their own personality. So don't ever strive for perfection with these transmissions. You're never going to get there. But that made all the difference. I mean, that transmission, we just added probably a good 10 years of life to that transmission. So, yeah, saved the customer $150 on a transmission. So that's just a little trick you can do. Now, just so you're aware, that trick only works about 75% of the time. Every now and again, you'll get that transmission together, and it's still going to be just noisy and sound like crap and rough, and sometimes they're just too worn out, you know. But 75% of the time, they'll turn out a lot better like this one did. So anyway, good luck with that. Again, only tear into it if you're truly confident to do that. Thanks for watching.